My ex-husband cheated on me, so I exposed his theft to our friends. Tell everyone. To make an incredibly long story short, I, 27 female, caught my husband, 29 male, cheating back in the beginning of June after he said he wanted a break in our 9-year, 5-year married relationship with a woman he met on an online game in Australia. What was he playing?
How do I find this game? Just kidding.
Who lives in Australia right now and is playing this game? By the way, this comes from the spiciest cucumber on the OKstorytime subreddit. So when I tried to reach out to him after he had left to try and fix things, he said, "I'm not coming back. I'm not afraid of change anymore. I don't want to fix us. I'm done." Dang, that game really turned his whole life around. I wonder if he moved to Australia. I was upset and hurt, and we both respectively moved into our parents' houses, me going to my mom and dad's, and him moving to his mom and grandmother's. During this time, his mom and grandmother still spoke to me and shared their condolences with me. They loved me like their own and were very upset with my ex for doing this to me. Now, a bit about my ex. I loved him greatly. He did have things I would get upset about, i.e. constantly calling into work to play video games. Well, was he actually playing video games or was he cheating on you?
This guy really has a thing for video games.
Not communicating feelings, not doing chores, etc. However, we had fun together. I would often join things he wanted to do together, like LARPing, running a roleplay tavern at Ren fairs, and playing card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Disney's card game Lorcana at the game store he worked at. And we had a great community/friend group in both. That does sound so fun.
What is LARPing?
It's like live action role playing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like if you go to, it's not exact. Like you could do LARPing at a Ren fair.
It's like cosplaying.
But you're in character. So you're in costume and you're in character.
I love it.
We had fun playing together, and it was a nice way to spend time with ourselves and our friends. When both groups found out that I had filed for divorce, they came to me and asked what had happened. And I told them a very short summary, and they were shocked. Apparently, he had just been telling people we both fell out of love, which is hard to believe because we were a cute couple to most. About a week after he left, I met with him to get him to sign a document that he would need to either refinance his van or sell it, as my mother is a co-signer on his van by a certain time as he plans to move to Australia to be with his mistress. Dang, he's uprooting his whole life for this lady that he met on a game. Has he met her in person before? I'm assuming not. If he didn't pay the $3,000 left on it, it would get put on my mom, and she does not want to handle that on top of her health problems right now. And he has a habit of making late payments. He said it was a fair statement and that he had no problem with it. He then tried to be friendly, ask how the dogs and cats were adjusting. He then gives me the only apology I have still received from him, which was, "I'm sorry this has hurt you." Couldn't even say like, "I'm sorry I hurt you." Just this situation. Sorry that someone else, the game got in the way.
It's giving gaslight. It's like, "I'm sorry you felt like I hurt you." Not even accountability.
No, I had never felt more anger in my life. Flash forward 2 months at the beginning of August, I have a new well-paying job and have a really great support system behind me. My ex has all but abandoned every friend group except a few mutuals here and there and the LARP group, as he had known a majority of them longer than I had, some of them being friends for over 11 years. He had a habit of not reaching out to people until he needed something, and it would always frustrate my friends and I, as we seemed more convenient than actual friends. I think this is where the title starts to come into play. I go into the card shop to play Lorcana, and I had a paper for him to sign for tax reasons. I ask our friend at the counter where he was, and turns out he had been fired for calling in sick and then going to an event where he posted pictures of him being there. So he's also just a bad liar in general. I was shocked as the owner is good friends with my ex, but I guess my ex had called in sick 17 times in 4 months, and the owner got sick of it. He also said he had caught him selling cards back to the shop, but they were my Lorcana cards, as they saw me pull some of them in store and would then see them in his sell pile a few days later when we were still living together. I was furious, but thanked them for telling me. She can't catch a break.
This poor woman.
She gets cheated on and then her stuff is stolen.
Also, like, this man just keeps calling in sick.
Yeah, 17 days. Get a better excuse to ask for some time off. I don't know. This is ridiculous. The next week, I find out from the owner of our LARP group that the members of the group aren't supposed to take money from tips, as no one person is better than the group as a whole. This immediately raised a red flag for me, as my ex took tips, but told me it had been okayed by the owner. I asked them to clarify, and they said they had suspicions of people doing it, but had no proof. Since my ex was going to be going to Australia, I figured I wouldn't tell them, as I wanted him to still have friends before he left. However, they told me he was wanting to come to the planned events for the rest of the year. So I told them I had found a screenshot from 2 years ago confirming that he had taken $200 from an event in tips and used it to buy a gaming computer. Oh my God. $200 from one event?
Caught up.
Guy's getting tipped well. We did the math, and he had probably taken over $500 total over those 2 years. He's not even good at getting tips.
Honestly, I expected more.
Yeah, over
like
like 2
500?
years, he only had $500. I feel like my friends who work in service industries
Don't people
will
make
get
that
like,
in one day?
Yeah, we'll get like, $300 in a day or something. This guy's bad. He's a bad server. And I confessed that he had given me some of it, but I was under the impression that the bartending staff could keep the tips handed to us, and have since paid them back in full with interest because I felt so horrible. Oh, so OP was saying she was under the impression that he was allowed to do this and is now giving it all back, which is very considerate.
Okay, we slay an honest queen.
Yeah. The following week, they confront him over phone and gave him multiple tries to come clean on his own, but he denied it and said that he was tired of me trying to ruin his life and that I was setting him up. Then they said they had proof, and he said that he had only taken $100 total from the tips. They show him the screenshot, and he types for a long time, but only responds with a, I see. That's so funny.
What?
He's like, so he goes from, I didn't take anything. And they're like, well, we have proof. And he's like, I'm being set up. And they're like, no, you took money. And he's like, well, I only took $100. And they're like, no. And he was like, I see. They offered to let him stay in the group, but he just can't be around the money. But he declined immediately and told them he wishes them the best and didn't respond to any other message, including a message where he can pay back the $200 at most. By the way, you can pay us back by joining us live every weekday at 3 p.m. PST on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. Just tap our profile. But what do you think? What do you do here? Do you just block this man and never talk to him again?
Yeah, I mean, sounds like he's a lame-o and a liar.
Yeah,
he's stealing your Lorcana cards.
Yeah, and also, I don't know why his friends are still... I mean, the fact that he stole money and his friends were still like, you can still join the group, like, just you can't touch the money.
He needs to go to Australia and
right now.
Yeah.
Right now. I don't know, if I was one of his friends, like, obviously it makes sense why OP doesn't want to be around him because he's been awful to her, but I just don't understand why his friends would want to stick around this guy.
They're good people.
Yeah, but there is a little bit left to the story. Am I an a-hole for doing this? Most of my friends are on my side, even though I told them I wouldn't make them choose a side. Every time I speak about him to my friends who have been in contact, they tell me he's not doing great mentally and try to guilt me. Who's doing that? This is so weird. She said that most of her friends were on her side, but then tried to guilt her?
Yeah, yikes.
I can't contact him since he blocked me on every social media and my phone number. I'm torn emotionally as this was someone I loved for 9 years, just throwing everything away and acting like I never existed. I don't want to see him fall and drown, but at the same time, I'm just telling people the truth, and I haven't lied about a single aspect of what I've been saying. It's made me realize he wasn't a great person all the time. I won't be apologizing to him until he gives me more of an apology than he gave me. Am I the a-hole? No, you literally just told people the truth. This guy, was awful. He screwed you over so many times, is moving to Australia, stole your Lorcana cards. You can't forget that.
He'll have a fresh start in Australia. He'll be okay.
He'll move on, and you should move on and not think about him. And any of your friends who are like, oh, you need to apologize, they're crazy.
You're not the a-hole.
No.
And I do, it's good that you feel bad for the guy, but he did it.
But you don't have
himself.
to. Yeah, that's his fault. But that's also the end of this story.